Hi, this is Dominic Pangallo. I'm the mayor of Salem and also the chair of the school committee here in the city of Salem. And we're here today to talk about the Salem High School project. Very excited about the opportunities that are coming down the pike here with this project, a chance to really create a transformational change for our students, for our community as a whole. We have been here before to provide an update and talked a bit about the project about a year ago, I think it was now, and a lot has happened since then. So we're going to provide an update for the community. And with me, I'd like to introduce the co-chairs of the building committee and our superintendent. If you guys want to maybe take a second to introduce yourselves, we'll start.
Hi, I'm Rick Jones. I'm one of the co-chairs of the committee along with Nate. I'm a parent here in the district, and I own an architecture practice that is based in Salem that is focused on planning and design for education. I think that's why I got recruited.
I'm Steve Zreich, the superintendent of schools in Salem. I'm entering my 6th year as superintendent of schools, and this has been a big part of our work in the last few years, and really excited to work with the team of folks. So we have two excellent co-chairs, and they did get recruited because they do have some talents beyond just being very involved and active community members who care about schools.
Hi, Nate Bryant. I'm co-chair, as Rick said. Long-time Salem resident, more than 35 years. I had 2 daughters who went through the Salem Public Schools. Spent a long time in higher education at Salem State University specifically, and just recently retired. So happy to be on the committee.
Great. So Steve, maybe if you want to get us started a little bit about what has been the process to date with this project, and why are we even talking about creating a new high school in Salem?
Yeah, so this has been a long-term project. I mean, this is, when I first arrived here right around the pandemic, one of the first things that people talked about is the need to rehab or to look at the facility at Salem High School, which was really outdated, needed a lot of work. Heard from students, faculty, families, community members that, obviously it's the flagship school. People had urgency around and had been trying to get a new project and to rehab a building that was sorely in need of upgrading. And so we, with the support of the Massachusetts School Building Authority, they suggested that we do a master facilities plan to really look at the needs across the district. And what came out of it is, yes, indeed, this was a building that had far exceeded or was beyond what the needs were significant, and we needed to do something to upgrade the experience for young people. And so with that assessment, we were able to go to the MSBA, and they appreciated the due diligence we did at looking at the needs of the whole district. They agreed that we should really explore the possibility of a new facility there, and they gave us the green light to enter the pipeline, which doesn't mean that you necessarily get a facility, but it's the beginning of the process, which we're now in the midst of. And so in 2022, in December of 22, we were given the okay to move forward, and now 2 years later, or 3 years later, we have done an amazing amount of due diligence, which we'll talk about here, and on the route to having a brand new facility at the Wilson Street site.
So a lot of this work has been shaped by the efforts of the building committee, which Nate co-chair for us. And Nate, can you talk a little bit about the role of the building committee, who is represented on that?
Sure, yeah. No, the makeup of the committee is pretty impressive. I mean, we've got community leaders, we've got architects, we've got designers, we've got parents, we've got students. We've got politicians, so it's a really a knowledgeable group of folks, and so when you put those folks in a room and start visioning about what a high school should look like, it's pretty impressive the kind of ideas you get. So we talked about making sure that students feel prideful in their school. We talked about having the facilities so students can achieve their goals, be it academic, higher ed, or if they want to do a profession within our CTE programs. We talked about our sustainability efforts. There's someone on the committee who's a sustainability expert, so that's always been top of mind. We talked about making sure that we have spaces and places for teachers to collaborate. We talked about that the school is not just for 9 to 12, but it should be a community asset. So again, when you get those folks in the room of different perspectives, and we start talking about what the school should look like, you come up with some ideas that really look to have a school that's going to meet the needs of just about everybody in the community. So it's a good group.
I think it's a fantastic committee. We've having the student voice on there is so important. Educators
Absolutely.
are there, representation, building trades, architects,
Designers. It's just
people
you
we
need
couldn't
to-
afford to hire as far as architects and design experts. And it's a great, I think, well-rounded group of community leaders who care about the future
Absolutely.
of the district and are providing some great guidance.
And a mayor who has kids in the school
Yeah.
system, so obviously have a vested interest in more ways than one. Yeah.
Some of the work that's been really critical for the building committee more recently has been this decision around what is this new school facility going to be? Is it going to be a renovation of the existing school building or an addition to the existing school building, or are we talking about constructing an entirely new school at the same site, maybe not the same precise location, but on the same parcel somewhere? And the unanimous decision of the committee was to move forward with new construction entirely. Rick, can you talk a little bit about why that decision was reached?
Sure.
And what the benefits of a new construction option were?
Sure. Dr. Zreich mentioned the MSBA process that we've entered into, and when you enter into that MSBA process program, you're tasked with looking at 4 different approaches to the problem. You're tasked with looking at a code upgrade only to the building that would bring the existing building into compliance with current building, energy, and other building codes. You're tasked with looking at a renovation-only approach, a renovation addition approach, or a new construction approach. So over the last 8 months, we vetted all of those different scenarios. One of the big challenges, to start with the first one, the code upgrade, you're really just upgrading the building to meet current codes. You're not addressing current pedagogy or how people teach and learn and how teaching has changed in the last 50 years since the building was built. So you'd really get a building that might be more state-of-the-art in terms of its performance, in terms of energy or building code or accessibility or what have you, but it hasn't improved the condition for the students in terms of how they learn. So that really wasn't of interest to the committee. The challenges with the renovation or the renovation addition scheme, they end up being more expensive even than the new construction scheme. That's owing to the demands of what would be required in terms of phasing, swing space, time. Where do you put the students essentially while the building's under construction? So if you're doing the renovation only scheme, you're looking at a 48-month process for construction as opposed to new construction, which is going to be more like 30 months. So when you take those 18 months, there's a lot of money in that, and there's a lot of pain for the kids that they'd be in that renovation process for their entire high school career. All they know is being in trailers or being in that kind of ad hoc situation. So with all of that in consideration, cost and the heartache that it might cause for kids and faculty, we have opted as a unanimous decision, as you said, to voted for a new construction approach.
Yeah, and I think the other element to the renovation options or renovation addition options is really the school facility itself that we currently have is built for a much larger student body than we have now. Even with enrollment going up, which we've seen in the last couple of years, we're not close to the student body enrollment numbers that we had when that building was constructed. So there's efficiency challenges too that a better footprint more aptly can address, I think, and also for less cost because of the construction timetable being saved. So we're looking at this new building. What are, Steve, or Dr. Zreich, I would ask you, what are some of the highlights of the new facility that are currently being discussed right now? We're in this preliminary design phase, so there's not a final design, but we know where on the site it's going to go. It's a 62-acre parcel, but really the buildable land is only about 16 or 17 acres because of ledge and wetlands and the power lines. So we have a sense of where this building is going to go and what the layout is going to likely look like. So what are some of the highlights of this opportunity from your perspective?
Yeah, there's a lot of highlights. Some that stand out for me. I think about the new facility as an educator and what it will bring for, in terms of, as Rick mentioned, the pedagogy and the learning experience. But all the fact that we'll have state-of-the-art academic spaces, That's obviously incredibly exciting in terms of science labs, our CTE learning spaces, our career and technical spaces, which are woefully inadequate for what's expected in industry, and we're very proud of those programs. But and while they've grown, our spaces don't match up with what students need to be career ready, to be college ready, as they move into career-connected higher education experiences. The arts, which we know in Salem is so significant to have, our students don't have the spaces, both in the visual arts and the performing arts, to have band rooms that make sense, located in the right places in the building, to have the acoustics that they need, to have an auditorium that doesn't struggle with the cooling and heating. And then, sports spaces as well. We're limited at Salem High School right now. Students have to travel to the middle school for most of the sports activities, but to have in the proposed plans, there's new field spaces for baseball, for softball, areas that and practice fields, which will now not only will be more convenient, but it will certainly help our athletics program take the next step. I know there's a lot of excitement in Salem about the Salem Diner being located on the campus. I know there's a lot of nostalgia about that. That will add an element to the different activities that can happen, and to be able to serve out of there. We have we'll have a new Black Cat cafe, which I know the community really supports and enjoys. There's so many features of this that will not only benefit the children of Salem that go to Salem High School, but the entire community. This is meant to be a space that the entire community can enjoy. It'll be the biggest facility, and it'll offer way more than what we can offer now to not just, like I said, the students of the Salem Public Schools, but to all the residents of Salem who I think relish high quality public spaces.
So just to expand, you had mentioned the educational components. The current high school building, the classrooms are actually undersized based on what the State Department of Education standards are, and the corridors, for anybody who's ever been there, those hallways are
oversized,
huge, massive
runways,
so a chance to kind of create appropriately sized classrooms to accommodate students. And at the same time, our CTE program, which is the Career and Technical Education Program, has expanded both in terms of the number of programs that it offers and the number of students who choose to participate. But the facilities for it in the current high school, they weren't designed really to support those programs or that number of students interested in those programs. So the great irony of having a building that's built for a student body that's twice as large as what's there now, but still having classrooms that are physically smaller than what we need, and CTE spaces that don't function for the number of students who want to be in them.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, Mayor. I also think that if you talk to students there, and I encourage anybody in the public to ask students about what the learning experience is now, they'll tell you that also the heating and cooling is problematic. And this is not just like students complaining about little changes in temperature. The building is way too hot when it needs to be cool. It is way too cool when it needs to be warm, given the extremities of the weather now. And that isn't, and that's not insignificant in terms of what students will say. And when you hear them talk about their experiences, that this is not them being privileged. I think that's just basic. I think the school lacks some of the basic needs, not to mention the state-of-the-art experiences that other communities have benefited from recently by having new high schools. A lot of our neighbors have built new high schools, and their students are experiencing a much more 21st century experience, and one that is preparing them more for college and career than we're able to do. It's not all about the building, but the building does play a significant role in terms of giving them the kinds of experience that will get them ready for the Salem States of the world, four-year colleges, any type of career experience that they will go into post high school in Salem High School.
So Rick had mentioned the phasing of the construction of the new building. So the campus does include Horseman Lab School is also on this same property. To what extent is the project going to impact that school, if at all? And in terms of the phasing of the work, is this going to affect Salem High School students when construction is underway? Will they be displaced? I mean, I think our goal was that they wouldn't have to be.
Yeah. You know, just as important as what's going to be in the building is what's going to be outside the building. And so, again, with the makeup of the committee, as well as our owner's project manager, Accenture, and our designers, Perkins and Well, looking at, as you mentioned, the ledge, the power lines, the traffic. So one of the things I think it's going to benefit Horace Mann, because one of the things we're looking at is having a kind of two-way traffic in terms of entrance and exits. Where right now there's kind of a one-way, and being mindful of, there's going to be school children at Horace Mann, going to be very active outside, as well as faculty and staff. So I think we really did a great job of a traffic pattern that doesn't impact Horace Mann at all. Again, in fact, I think it actually benefits them. But it's also, we're making sure that's very safe for the folks who are entering the school or dropping off their children at the school. So I think the pattern's going to be really good for all involved. In terms of the phasing, Rick mentioned the design that we ultimately took. That was really something that was important to me, because my daughters had gone through a renovation, not as great as this one when they were in high school, but and so they were. I think we had some portable classrooms for a little while, and the fact that we're able to do this without displacing students, without bringing in temporary or portable classrooms, I think is critical. And so we've been very mindful as making sure that there's going to be as minimal disruption as possible. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say there's not going to be noise. There's going to be machines and those kinds of things. But students will not be displaced. Hopefully, they should not lose any time in the classroom. And then, once this school is complete and we can move them to the new classroom, then we can begin the work of dismantling the old classroom, the old school, and again, without any disruption to student learning. So I think we made the right decision in terms of where it's going to be, being ever mindful of making sure that the number one priority was not to disrupt student learning. So I think we've achieved that.
So let's talk dollars and cents. The voters are going to have to weigh in on this to fund the project. The Massachusetts School Building Authority is will provide a portion of the funding for it, and the other portion comes from the city. And to be able to afford it, the voters will be asked in the spring of next year, 2026, to weigh in on what's called the debt exclusion vote, so whether or not to exclude the debt from this project from the restrictions of Proposition 2.5, which limits the amount by which property taxes can increase. So I think one of the biggest questions that we are starting to get now that this has become more of a public conversation is, what is the cost of this going to be overall? And what are the costs if we opt not to engage in the debt exclusion and turn down the state funding? Because there is a cost to a no vote as well. And if you want to touch on that a little bit, Rick,
You're going to make me talk about dollars and cents.
I'm happy to talk about it.
No, I'm fine. So we, it is the question we've been getting. So with Drs. Reich and Nate, we've been doing sessions at the Senior Center, sessions at the Ice Cream Bowl. So you'll be seeing us in the community with our boards talking about the project. And the two boards that seem to get the most attention are a yes vote means this, a no vote means that. So I'll just hit the highlights here real quickly. So if we do the yes, if you vote yes in favor of the debt exclusion, and we do the new construction project, the Mass School Board Authority will have a reimbursement for part of the project. That'll be somewhere between 45–55%. We won't know the exact reimbursement rate for some time, but if it's a $450 million project, which is what we're projecting, they could reimburse $225 million of that. So the balance would fall on the taxpayers of the City of Salem as part of this debt exclusion vote. If you vote no on the debt exclusion, and the Mass School Board Authority says, thanks, you can get back in line and apply again. And that is, as Dr. Reich led with, we've been in this process for 6 years now, essentially. So we'd have to get back in line and revisit the whole process again. But I think the critical thing would be, we can't let the school continue to fall apart around the kids. We'd have to start addressing accessibility issues. Mm-hmm. We'd have to start addressing the fact that parts of the building don't have fire protection. We'd have to start addressing the fact that the mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection systems that are there are as old as the building. They're 50 years old, so they're beyond their usable life. And credit to Z, who runs facilities, that he pieces things together with Band-Aids all the time right now. And so it would really not be tenable to not do anything at the school. And so that means that the city would still have to spend money on the school. And if we bite that, the code-only upgrade was about $350 million. So it's about a $100 million difference. if we have to bite that off in $8 and $10 million chunks, because that's what we can afford every year, add 5% escalation to that, add tariffs to that, and kind of
add interest on the debt.
add interest on the debt,
projects,
yeah,
yep.
and just kind of roll that out. That's not going to be very pretty for the taxpayers in the city of Salem either.
No, and I mean, and the MSBA won't be picking up presumably
Correct.
any of that funding. So we're turning down $225 million in state funding and taking on the cost of that $350 million project over multiple years, adding in the cost escalators, adding in interest on the previous year's debt, and for what it's worth, you know, we have a limited amount of capital that we can fund each year out of the city budget. So if we're going to take that endeavor on, it means that we have less money to spend on seawalls and road paving and police cruisers and fire trucks and playgrounds and all the other capital costs that we typically incur in the course of a year. So there is a cost to a no vote, and I think it's important that people understand that we're talking about a $450 million school ballpark. You know, under the new construction, the renovation would have been probably more. Half, maybe, say, funded by the state, or with, on the no side, a $300+ million project that is solely taken on by the city and our taxpayers, that ultimately over the course of 10, 20, 30 years could be close to $1 billion when you add up escalations, tariffs, and interest payments.
Absolutely.
Mayor, can I just add to, there's the threat to our accreditation as well.
Thank you.
It
Yes.
was mentioned in the report when we had recent accreditation. Salem High did receive its accreditation, but part of it was they noted the concerns about the facility and the fact that at that point it was known that we were entering the pipeline in MSBA, and that allowed us to retain our accreditation for the high school. But if we don't, if we are not able to move forward on this project, there's quite a bit of work, as you mentioned, that would really threaten our accreditation if it's not done when the school comes up for, I believe it's another 5 years when it comes back up again for accreditation. And that's something that no one wants, is to see us not pass our accreditation.
I just want to add one thing. I think a very important factor that people haven't really talked about is what a brand new school does for a city. You know, when there are parents who have children who are looking at, you know, relocating, one of the first things they look at are schools. And so a brand new state-of-the-art high school, I think, will do wonders for the city of Salem. And again, I say this a lot, it's a community asset. It's allowing the public to use some of the spaces for, you know, events, creative performing arts, athletics, to hold meetings. So it's not just for the 9 to 12 school kids. It's for the community.
Yeah, it's a flagship, really, the signature
Absolutely.
building. So to kind of build on what you were talking about with accreditation, and you know, it being something that can serve to attract families to a community, it's not just about the building, of course. It's about the activities and the academic work that's underway there. And Salem Public Schools, our high school especially, but all across our district, we've seen some incredible achievements over the last couple of years. Dr. Zreik, I wonder if you could maybe just talk about a couple of those highlights and how you see this project being able to kind of help continue that progress and that momentum.
Yeah, what's really exciting is that you know, this project is coming at a time where the Salem High School is on a significant upswing. As a school, we've seen enrollment grow by almost 200 students since we went into the project, and that's exciting. People are choosing to come back to the high school. We're seeing demand grow for the programs. We're seeing more involvement of kids in our extracurriculars, in our advanced coursework that we offer, early college, AP courses. And our achievement has gone up. Salem High School made double-digit gains in every content area, math, science, and English language arts last year. Was one of the highest performing gateway cities in the state of Massachusetts. I think the highest performing gateway city, or at least in the top 3. And it was named a school of recognition by the Department of Education for its performance. This past school year, while we haven't seen all the achievement results, we do know that our AP scores are the best in the history of Salem High School. More kids taking the assessments, and we had almost more than two-thirds of the students scoring above a 3 or higher on AP exams. So that's really exciting. It speaks to the talents of our students, our staff, who's worked incredibly hard. So there's a lot of the infrastructure is there to take advantage of a really new facility. Again, the school building doesn't make for the entire school, but it will help accelerate a lot of these gains and achievements that our students and staff have made over the last few years. And we have award-winning music programs. Our sports programs have been slowly improving over the last few years. We've seen a team go to the Super Bowl, teams go to the playoffs, but we'd like to, and all of this will, this momentum will be great if we're able to move into a brand new facility and take advantage of that. The last thing I'd say is we're seeing higher numbers of students involved in our CTE programs, almost 600 out of the close to 1,000 students, or over 600 of close to 1,000 students are taking career and technical courses. The demand is really high, and that demand is there for spaces that are not adequate, as we mentioned before. So this is a great time to be a witch and to be to be connected to Salem High School. And to Nate's point, it's important for us to continue to be able to retain families, to attract families to the city, to be able to say that our high school is one of the most one of the state-of-the-art facility that complements excellent programming with an excellent facility.
So I want to circle back to something that Nate, you had touched upon when we were talking about Horace Mann, and that's around traffic and parking. It's always a sensitive topic in Salem, as it is in many communities. But can you talk a little bit about the plan as it stands? Is there any reduction in parking on the campus? Because that's, I know, very much of interest to people. And also, what are the changes that are anticipated as far as circulation? The entrance is changing further down Wilson Street, and is it integrating with the Highland Avenue project that MassDOT has been working on?
Sure. Again, yeah, leaving no stone unturned. We looked at traffic patterns. That's critical, and so there should be no displacement of parking spaces. I think we have, is it roughly 350, 370? I don't remember the number exact offhand, but we should maintain those number of parking spaces. There'll be, right now there's off of Wilson, there's you enter into Wilson and then you exit Wilson. It's one way. It's now going to be two way, and it's going to be devised where it doesn't impact Horace Mann. They still have their entrance and egress, but then there'll be a traffic pattern where buses can come in and drop off students without interfering with families and students who have the vehicles who either drop off or park there. And so we've been able to really look at that quite closely. And again, credit to the folks, to owner's project manager, bring in I'm going to call him a traffic expert. I don't know what his name was, but we were able to really pepper him with questions about what's happening on Highland Ave, what's the best course of action for us in terms of traffic patterns, and making sure that, because we actually looked at, I think one of the questions I had was, would it be possible to use Highland Ave as an entrance or an exit? It just seemed where the school is going to be moved to, it would maybe be a possibility. But again, talking with these experts, they said, it really wouldn't work, not to mention the fact that MassDOT has some other designs on what they want to do, so it probably wouldn't be the best fit. But what we are doing will not infringe upon what MassDOT is doing, and in fact, when it's all said and done, may be better for all of us in terms, because as you well know, Highland Ave is very busy. Wilson Street, by virtue of the fact that you've got two schools on Wilson Street, is very busy. So making sure that we work with MassDOT so that we're not, again, impacting what they're trying to do, and they know full well what we're trying to do should be a win-win for all. So that's the goal.
Yeah, I think that integration is really key. There are two significant projects happening that are going to affect those areas and those roadways. So Salem is proud to be a climate leader. We take our sustainability commitments pretty significantly. To what extent we're looking at this building now as striving for net zero or net positive. We talked a little bit about sustainability in the systems in the building being outdated now. It's creating inefficiencies. It's a substantial portion of the city's electric bill is just Salem High School. Rick, what are the elements of this building that are going to hopefully address the sustainability, make it a healthier building, make it more efficient, energy efficient, but also help us meet our climate goals?
Yeah, the architects that we hired were the first step in the right direction there. Perkins & Will is a leader in the industry in sustainable design, and their engineering team, Ristfrost Shumway, have been great partners in that. We actually had a meeting yesterday, so I'm ready for this question. So we met with them yesterday to talk about it. I think it starts with the building orientation, so the way that Perkins & Will has positioned the building on the site. The new entry faces just north of east. So, and it's a big glassy entry, so it'll get that nice morning sun, but by the time the day starts to heat up, the sun will have moved around the building. It's more solid, it's less glassy. So you want to kind of position the building in the right way to get the sun at the right time of day and not in the late afternoon. And so that was the start. But then with respect to the building systems, we're looking at a geothermal system that would support all of the mechanical systems in the building, and then both rooftop and canopies over the parking lots for solar panels. So the combination of all that should move us close to net zero or net positive. But I think it's also critical that everything is electric and we're off of carbon. So we're not relying on natural gas, we're not relying on other fuel sources. So that's the other big initiative that we've undertaken.
Yeah, I think that's critical, and it makes it for a better building inside for everybody that has to be inside the building as well, and the geothermal potential to create a network system that can also support the electrification at Horace Mann, so the adjacent elementary school is also able to be a sustainable and healthy building. So we're going to close this out with one last question, we've talked a lot about the vote coming in the spring of 2026 next year. So Dr. Zreich or Nate or Rick, if you want to weigh in on this, what happens next? What's the time frame from this point forward if the voters approve the funding and the Mass School Building Authority keeps the project on track? When do we expect to see shovels in the ground and the school open for students?
Well, I've been told that it would be, and I ask this question all the time, there's a lot of excitement about the day that fall of 2030 is right. If everything stays on track, we'd be able to open the building. The entire site wouldn't be complete because, as has been discussed, that the first phase would be completing the building. Then you have to the new building, and then you'd have to knock down the old building and finish the fields. But we could move in for at least the inside of the building in fall of 2030. And while that seems like it's far away, it felt like 2025 was far away when we first got involved in this project. So, but it's getting more real by the moment, and the excitement is building. And so we're hopeful to get the support of the city of Salem as we move forward. So, and hopefully, 2030 will be the moment that we can let people in the new building.
That's great. It's very exciting. Well, thank you all for joining for this conversation. Viewers, if you're interested in learning more about this project, you can visit salemma.gov/Salem High School. That's salemma.gov/Salem High School. Information on there about the plans to date, presentations to the building committee, lots of information about the feasibility studies that have been done to this point. We're really excited for this opportunity, and I hope you'll stay tuned because there's a lot more information to come as this project moves forward for the city of Salem and for the future of our kids.